That's sick. Jack, get out. Pack your things. You're evicted. Chapter 5. Redemption and the Cameo. Jack fled upstairs, his heart hammering against his ribs. He burst into apartment 201, expecting comfort, but was met with a wall of icy silence. Jana and Chrissy were sitting at the table, the J-cake looking sad and lopsided between them. He said he'd be back in time, Jana said to the wall. He stood us up for a girl with big blue eyes and a New York accent. We don't own him, Jana, Chrissy said, though she looked like she wanted to cry. He's just a third of the rent. And a watchdog, Jana added bitterly. I have to move. Jack blurted out, ignoring their anger. Roper caught me. He kicked me out. Jeanette's anger flickered. Why would he kick you out for taking his niece for a burger? Because I wasn't being myself, Jack groaned. Suddenly, a knock at the door revealed a very different Stanley Roper. He looked sheepish, his shoulders slumped. I just came up to apologize, Stanley muttered. Karen. She admitted she practically attacked poor Jack here. And the boy, he showed no interest at all. None. The poor girl feels like she's over the hill already. Jack blinked. Karen had covered for him. She had made him look safe again to save his housing. Anyway, Stanley continued, I told her all about you. Jack, a little fairy story to make her feel better. You can stay. You have your rights, just like any other minority. I'm a fair man. As Stanley left, the girls looked at Jack, the ice finally melting. Jack reached into his pocket. He hadn't just taken the $50 to pay the rent. He had been on a mission. Jana, Jack said softly, handing her a small, velvet-covered box. She opened it. Inside sat the gold cameo, the one she had hawked 3 months ago. The intricate carving of the woman's profile shone under the kitchen light. You bought it back, Jana whispered, her eyes filling with tears. Well, Jack smiled, his usual charm returning. I couldn't waste Roper's $50 on Karen, could I? Happy birthday, Jana. The silence in the room was different now, warm, filled with the kind of love that only 3 mismatched people in a Santa Monica apartment could understand. They weren't just roommates. They were a family. Chapter 6. The Sleepwalker's Serenade. Life in apartment 201 settled into a rhythm, but that rhythm was interrupted a few weeks later by a midnight mystery. It started at 3:00 a.m., the hour of the wolf, when Stanley Roper was doing his nightly rounds of the front window. Helen, wake up, Stanley hissed, shaking his wife. Stanley, if you're asking for a sandwich at this hour, the answer is no, Helen groaned. No, look, it's the snow girl. She's walking around outside in her nightgown. Upstairs, the front door of 201 clicked shut. Jana woke up to find Jack in the hallway, looking like a disheveled ghost. Where's Chrissy? Jana asked. I think she's sleepwalking again, Jack groaned, rubbing his eyes. It's the stress. They found her on the sidewalk, her eyes wide but unseeing, humming a soft hymn from her father's church. She was moving with a strange, fluid grace that she never possessed while awake. "Chrissy, honey, let's go back to bed," Jana whispered, taking her by the arm. The next morning, Chrissy sat at the breakfast table, her head in her hands. "I am so embarrassed. It always happens when I'm nervous. And my boss, Mr. Rogers, he's a nightmare. The girls in the office call him Christopher Columbus because he's always discovering new things," Jack asked. "No, because he's an explorer," Chrissy said flatly. "His hands are everywhere but on the typewriter." Jack's protective instincts flared. "That creep. Why don't you complain? He is the boss. Jack, I need the job." To make matters more complicated, Jack had returned from a visit to Honest Larry's used cars with something more than just a repair estimate. He had brought home a small, whimpering bundle of fur. "A puppy?" Jana gasped. "Jack, you know the rules. No dogs, no babies, no fun." Honest Larry was gonna put her to sleep because nobody wanted her. Jack argued. "I couldn't let that happen. Look at her eyes. Jana, they're like saucers. If Roper finds out we're on the street," Jana warned, even as she reached out to scratch the puppy's ears. "We have to be careful." Chapter 7, The Gourmet Swap. The puppy, whom they named Bernice, was surprisingly good at hiding, but her whimpering was a high-frequency signal that Stanley Roper was genetically tuned to hear. "I hear a dog," Stanley told Jack in the hallway. "A whimpering dog." "Oh, that?" Jack laughed nervously, his brain spinning. "That's just me, Mr. Roper. I stubbed my toe. I have a very high-pitched, canine way of expressing pain. It's a Tripper family curse. My Uncle Barnaby used to howl at the moon when he had a toothache." The tension peaked during the Ropers' 20th anniversary. Helen had been complaining that the spark had gone out of their marriage. So Jack, in a fit of culinary generosity, decided to make them a gourmet beef bourguignon to help them celebrate. In the frantic chaos of hiding Bernice from Mrs. Roper, who had dropped by to borrow milk, Jack's focus slipped. He had two identical white bowls on the counter, one filled with a rich, wine-soaked stew, and the other with a can of high-protein dog food he'd prepared for Bernice. "Mrs. Roper!" "Wait!" Jack screamed, realization hitting him like a physical blow as he saw Helen walking out with the bowl of dog food. Jack raced downstairs, bursting into the Ropers' dining room just as Stanley was raising a spoonful of stew to his lips. "Wait! Stop!" Jack shouted, lunging across the table and grabbing the bowl. He sprinted to the kitchen and dumped it down the sink. "What is he? Crazy!" Stanley yelled. "That was my anniversary dinner." "It was contaminated," Jack lied, gasping for air. "French bacteria. Very rare. Very deadly. I'll bring you the real stew in a minute." Later that night, the puppy problem was resolved with a bit of sleepwalking magic. Chrissy found the dog on the Roper's doorstep and presented it as an anonymous anniversary